Hi, Filmatics. Welcome back to part two with Chris Dowling. He's an award-winning writer and director whose latest film, Blue Miracle, starring Dennis Quaid, is in the top 2 position in the world on Netflix for weeks. And his next film, Acid Man, is premiering at Tribeca in June. Let's welcome Chris Dowling back. Hi, Chris. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we were just talking about your plethora of these amazing films, and we just spoke about your last film that you did that got all kind of awards. Can you tell us about how that you even, did you meet for King and Country, the Grammy award-winning band, and wrote this film? Like, how'd that come about?
Yeah, it was really cool. Like John Chapman, who was working with him, he had seen Where Hope Grows, and so he called me up and was like, "Hey," he was like, "I think the boys are trying to make a movie. It's got faith elements, but it's also like it's about sex trafficking, so it's a delicate balance." And like, he was like, "I think you're our guy." And so it was really cool. So I flew out to Nashville, and I met with Joel, who's going to play the lead, and who's one of the leads in the band, and then their brother Ben, who directs all their music videos. He's awesome, and so he was going to direct the movie. We just sat down and chatted it out, and they had a broad idea of the story. And I mean, honestly, like I think we did the first pass on the script in 7 days, 8 days. We had it at least ready. So it was quick. And then obviously you work through all the changes and everything after that. But yeah, so it was good. And then they went and they shot it, and that movie has crushed it in home sales and DVDs. Like they were telling me that at Universal, because I've done 2 or 3 movies that have come out on with Universal Home Video and Home Entertainment, and they were saying that like when you go in to talk to them, like they use Priceless as like one of their like kind of bellwether, like this is like the peak, like where it's like it does 1.5 in the box office, and then they do like 10 million and whatever, I don't know what the full number is, but like the X's we did on that versus the actual box office is pretty crazy.
Wow, that's beautiful. And so his brother ended up directing it. Did you say like, well, if I'm gonna write it, I want to direct, or you were like really cool just writing it for the boys?
Yeah, no, they told me you're not directing. They said I'm directing this. So when they brought me on board, it was like Ben's directing this. Make no mistake. And I was like, yeah, cool.
So yeah, and that's so Priceless was nominated for a Dove Award in the category for Inspirational Film of the Year. Very nice job for that writing. And then also I want to talk a little bit about this because some of my friends have Asperger's. I met people. I think maybe a lot of people that are artists in particular have a little bit of that, and especially because I have huge anxiety, and especially a lot of us artists during the pandemic. You can talk to people, and now they have social anxiety increased because we're so isolated. And then like a lot of people are like, it was kind of scary to be around people, especially if you were alone, like you didn't have a lot of people with you. Like, let's face it, was me and my dog, and and then yeah, and that's how I ended up starting my children's podcast, Enchanting Book Readings. And I was just entertaining myself because my dog couldn't talk to me. She's kind of a quiet husky. I mean, most huskies talk. She talks when it's like if she does something wrong, she's like, do that. Like, oh, you didn't do that. Like you're the only one here that could have like took the stuffing out of the pillows and or chewed all my shoes
right, yeah.
or chews all my shoes when I leave. So and then I think this podcast, Filmatics, came about because I love directing. I always want to be a director. I've just only directed short films with some awards and or placing high in contests like Project Greenlight. And I found a lot of like writers, directors, producers, and actors were just isolated. They weren't working, and it was a very healing process to speak with people and talk to people. So I really So how can you share how this story? You produced this documentary, Asperger's Are Us. Can you explain how that came about?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So my DP on Where Hope Grows, who going into it, him and I are very opposite just about in everything in life, which is great. And then coming out of it, I mean, to this day, he's my best friend. He's actually my daughter's godfather, GAWD, because he's agnostic. I mean, I'm Christian, but like he gets that honor because that's because I love him so much. Uh, he uh, he's awesome, and he just said, "Hey man, I just heard this story on NPR about this comedy troupe in Boston where everyone's on the spectrum and they're going to do kind of their last show." He's like, it was just this little bitty thing on NPR. He's like, but I don't know, man. He's like, I want to go check it out. So he got a hold of the guys, went out there and shot with them for a weekend and brought the footage back. We started watching the footage and he was like, I don't know, man. I think we could turn this into if I could get 2 more weeks out there, we could maybe turn this into a feature. And so he went back out there and it was just honestly, it was just him for the most part. We got another guy that Omar that went and shot some other stuff too, but and it worked out. I mean, it was awesome. And so it was a really interesting process too, because then we had the film, we showed it to a couple people we had that were like reps, and everybody's like, hey, it's just too small. And I understand that. I mean, we barely spent any money on it. It was, and then Alex knew Mark Duplass, and he showed it to Mark, and Mark was like, I love it. I want to executive produce this thing. And so we were like, yes. And so then he came on board, and once he came on board, and I mean, it was really actually pretty cool. He didn't have really story notes for the most part, but he added value. The thing I think that he said, which I have told many people this now, is again, we did not spend a lot of money on this at all. He convinced us to go get some extra money, a sizable amount compared to what we were spending on the entire budget, to have a big opening credit sequence, like animated, make it feel big and awesome. And so we did, and it was the best advice ever because it really changed the tone going right in there. Ours felt like a very, very small movie. Suddenly that thing came out, and then it was the same movie after that. You were like, whoa, this is a big movie. It really did work, and it was cool. We were actually that year, it was 2016. We were the first film that got sold at South by, so that was cool. We premiered, and then that day we got to announce that we sold it to Netflix. And so it was great. And then it was funny because the actual documentary, the guys are getting together because they're all going to go their separate ways for college. So they're getting together to do their final show. But then it was like, yeah, we got a Netflix doc now. So we're like, you guys want to get back together? We're going to get you a RV and drive. We'll book you a cross country tour of comedy clubs. And so they did it. And then so we sold that, which is a docu-series to HBO. And it's called On Tour with Asperger's or Us. It's great because for me, it's coming of age, it's best friends. That one's a travelogue. It's these guys just like trying to figure it out and tackle the world. And at the same time, dude, they're trying to pull off 20 comedy shows across the U.S. And I can't imagine how hard that would be for me, who doesn't really have social anxiety or that anything that bugs me. But to watch them process and go through the motions and stuff, and then they're just such interesting guys. They're so cool. It was awesome. I'm super proud of those.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Asperger's or Us is a six-part HBO documentary series on their tour. So that's a beautiful. I encourage everyone to go look at that. And then, so now, you wrote an inspirational drama after that, and directed, and which was executive produced by Tim Tebow, called Run the
Yeah.
Race. Can you share with us how that came about? Tim Tebow? Am I hearing it right?
Yeah, Tim Tebow. Yeah, that's an interesting one too, right? Because there was an original script that was written, and it needed to be rewritten. And so there was basically a producer of mine, that friend that called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to be in the Tim Tebow business?" And I happen to really respect Tim Tebow, and this was going to be his first film he's executive producing. And so I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so they sent me the script, and I just started digging into it, and it was really cool. And then they were talking to different directors, and obviously they were talking to me as well. And they just said, "Hey, yeah, you're the guy." And so we just kind of moved straight in from writing into directing. And I mean, that one's interesting too, because again, super proud of the movie. I hate the title. Couldn't hate the title more. But I lost that battle, so that's the name of this movie. But it was a lot. That was interesting because there's a lot of different parties involved. Like once we got especially into the notes and the post-production part of it, our post-production drug on for like over a year, because there was 5, I would say, different groups that were like all weighing in and giving notes, and like you can't make them all happy. So it was like we were paralyzed for a long time. But thankfully we got it out there, and it did pretty well for what we were. We spent, I don't know, like $2.5 million. I think we did about 7 in the box office, and it's done great on home video. And other things. And and it was awesome to have to have the Tim Brand. He's a really especially with his what he does for individuals with special needs. Like his Tim Tebow Foundation is mind blowing. So like that was for me that I just have huge respect for him for everything he does for individuals with special needs. So it was awesome.
Yeah, so that's Tim Tebow's, film, Run the Race, and now where can our audience go check out Run the Race by Tim Tebow? And if you guys don't know who Tim Tebow is, can you share with them? He's the quarterback, right? Or he's a
Yeah, I
football.
mean, I think he won two Heisman's in college. He went and played at with Denver Broncos, who's quarterback, and then got out of football and actually went to play baseball for the New York Mets, which is pretty crazy. And now he's just like full time commentator, motivational speaker. But he is genuinely like like almost too nice. Like where you're like, okay, come on, dude, like you're too nice. And he really is. That's just who he is. Like he's awesome. Like he really is just a very genuine, nice human being.
I that's
So
incredible. He's like an athlete, like, he wins the Heisman Trophy. He goes from quarterback to new he plays the New York Mets baseball? Like, how do you do quarterback in football and then go play baseball? I mean, double what
because
do you
you're
call that? A
yeah.
double athlete? Or what do you even call that? A
I don't
double
know. They did it. I
sportsman?
mean, back in the day, it was like Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders and those guys did it, but it's not an easy feat for sure to be an athlete. I mean, imagine how hard it is to be a professional athlete in one sport. I mean, you're talking about 99.9% of all the athletes that ever play don't make it that far. It's now do it in two sports. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, like, the Denver Broncos and New York Mets, like, yeah, and then now he's motivational speaker and producing these great films. So, yeah, that's okay. So where do you go after you do a film with like you know Grammy winning band King and Country, and then Tim Tebow, and then where do you go from there, Chris?
Yeah, I think that was maybe after that was Blue Miracle. Um, where it was another actually it was the same producer Darren Mormon. I think it was Darren or maybe it's been Howard. Anyways, another producer called me and said, "Hey, we've got this story. It's this crazy, like, true life David versus Goliath story." And they sent me this book proposal they had, and I read it, and I was like, "Oh my lord! Like this is like it really is like the greatest." Yeah, hopefully you'll see it, but it really is like the greatest David versus Goliath story ever. It's amazing, and so I was just reading it, and you could just see the movie playing out, and then yeah, so we got that greenlit, and then they went. I was actually shooting another movie, and they were shooting that one in the Dominican Republic. Um, and yeah, and then sold it to Netflix, and it was really actually pretty remarkable. It was like it was number two for at least 3 weeks in the world, and it was number one, which I didn't even know this was a thing until my buddy showed me how to find it. But the first week, it was number one most liked movie on the most liked not even movie, TV show and movie. It was most liked thing on the platform. It had like 292,000 thumbs up, and like 100 thumbs down or something. Like it was crazy. So, but it was yeah. I mean, it was just very well received, and like I said, it's really cool to be able. Whereas like I used to go in these meetings and I'd be like, oh yeah, I've done these movies, and I mentioned all these movies, and a lot of them had theatrical releases, and people were like, yeah, cool, never seen any of them. But now I go, hey, I did Blue Miracle, and I would say most of the people I talked to were familiar with that movie, and most of them really liked it because they could like it's a good movie you can watch. Your kids are interested in it. You're interested in it. It's very well done. Yeah. It's Julio, the director, did an amazing job with it. Like it's really, yeah, really proud of that one.
Yeah, and starring Dennis Quaid, who's an excellent actor. I always like watching him in, films, so that's amazing that, like, you wrote this film, Blue Miracle, based off a book, right? Where it was the number 1 highest rated movie on the platform, and once again, it's not like a Marvel, it's not a big action movie, it's the meat and potatoes. We need to have those potatoes with our, action and Marvel and the horror and all that stuff, so I really people need want to see this kind of stuff, and but I guess the usual suspects always get, like, hey, action thriller, horror, and then, these
Sure.
so I'm so glad that these movies are coming out, because and I'm glad to be sharing them on the platform, because we have, we hit number 1 around the world, and so I wanted to thank our beautiful audience, and so encouraging them to, do check it out, and, I bet you the investors on Netflix are like, "Yes, yes, more of these, more of these, more of these."
I
Yeah.
hope
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope so.
Yeah, and then, do you wanna then, you wanna tell us about your, recent film, which, earned
Yeah,
the coveted Ebony Award at the Movie Guide Awards? Come on, can you just tell us about that?
oh, that actually that was Blue Miracle. So Blue
Oh, okay.
Miracle this year won, yeah, won the Epiphany Award, which is like it's like the top award at Movie Guide, which is really cool. I mean, like it's great to win, to be nominated, and to be recognized for anything. So that was really cool. And then actually, while they were shooting Blue Miracle, I was shooting another movie that I'm super excited about. This movie was I mean, victim's not the right word, but it was shelved because of COVID. We were going to have a theatrical release, and then it sat there. It's been an interesting process. Endeavor fully financed it, so they're in control of it. But it's like probably the smallest movie they've ever financed. So it's like we're not very high on the totem pole. But then we had a theatrical deal get set up where we would come out September 28th, and then that got squashed by somebody else. So it's like it's been a journey on this one, but I'm super proud of it. I think we're figuring out how to resurrect it. But it's called Roll with It, and it is a inspirational karaoke comedy. But it's got great. I mean, it's got such an '80s vibe because that's my thing. That's my jam. And so, and it's got great music, great '80s music. It's got like Huey Lewis in the News and Wang Chong and Katrina and the Waves, and the movie opens with the Steve Winwood "Roll with It" song. I mean, obviously it's named "Roll with It." So I mean, and then it's got Freebird and REO Speedwagon. Like it's fun. It's just fun and it's super sweet. And it stars this. She's unknown outside of like really the Christian world, but Shonda Pierce, and she's very very funny. And actually, this was a vehicle that Endeavor was doing for her. She's the best-selling stand-up female comedian of all time. For RIAA, so for like albums, records, all that stuff. Like she's number one, and she's really funny, and she crushes it in this movie. So super excited to get that one out there. I mean, again, this is a funny one because it's been such an interesting process. Not a fun process, by the way, not a fun process at all, but an interesting process to get it out there. So we'll see what happens, but it should be coming out fall or maybe spring of next year.
Oh, so that's just, roll with it, just roll with, and literally you are just rolling with it and hoping to get, this film and post out into, will it be in theaters or on streaming, you think?
I mean, it was. I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be in theaters. I think we'll get a limited run, which is interesting because it's like like if you go look at like Box Office Mojos and you look at the upcoming releases for each week, it's really crazy now because like pre-COVID, you'd see everything be like wide, 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 and then there'd be a couple like limiteds. But now you go in there and there's like, honestly, it's like each weekend there's one wide, and then everything else is limited. And so it's just such an interesting process with everybody trying to figure out like what is the theatrical space if you're not Marvel or Star Wars or $100 million movie. Do you have a home there, or is it like a lot of these where you get your little limited run so you can get your deal with the streaming side, or whatever it works for. But so I don't know. But there's that one, and then our movie Acid Man premieres at Tribeca, which is a project I wrote with my best friend. I was talking about Alex Lehman, who did Asperger's or Us, and was the DP for Where Hope Grows, and he's obviously done great things now. He shot a movie called Paddleton with Ray Romano and Mark Duplass, and he shot Blue Jay with Sarah Paulson and Mark Duplass, and then we went and shot this movie with Thomas Hayden Church and Diana Agron, yeah, and I'm super proud of it. It's just a really good character-driven drama. It's super contained. It's really two actors the entire movie and very limited locations. So it's like you have to have a special script, and you have to have a amazing director to pull off two characters, and I mean honestly 3 locations or 4 locations, but it works, and I'm so proud of it. So
Yeah.
so that one, yeah. So that one's coming up in June, at least for the premiere. Um, And there's just a bunch of other stuff right now that's swirling. It's been crazy. I'm actually writing on a TV series right now, which has been awesome and a new experience. So I was in the writers' room for 3 weeks so far, and done two episodes, and it's really hard to break into TV. Obviously, like if you're a narrative writer, like to break into TV is really tough. If you're a TV writer, it's really tough to break in and sell narrative screenplays. So the fact that I got this opportunity, like I jumped on it, and it's been awesome. So I'm like having a blast with that. I'm just like right in the middle of that right now, and setting up a couple other projects. There's three other projects that I'm supposed to direct this year, but again, how many of them actually land? Who knows? But it is one of those things where it's like, I haven't directed anything in a year and a half, or 2 years really. Just been writing, and then suddenly, three things will happen at the same time. It's like one of those where it's like, great, like where were you the last 2 years? But super fun. Like one's a comedy that I'm super pumped about that I didn't write. One is the biopic of Little Jimmy Dickens, which is the longest tenured musical act at the Grand Ole Opry. He's a little 4'10" guy, and I mean he's revered in Nashville. Not as well known outside of Nashville, but it's cool because it's the love story between him and his wife, and it takes place 1968 to 1971 in Nashville. So it's very ingrained in like the Grand Ole Opry, and we're partnering with one of the producers, Pete Fisher, was actually the general manager of the Grand Ole Opry for 20 years. So like we're getting some pretty cool access to stuff, and so I'm really excited about that one.
And do you have the actor
And
for
then
that one? You have the actor in mind for that one?
I think so. There's nothing closed yet, but I have a good idea of who the actor is.
Oh,
It's
nice.
hard to find somebody. It's hard to find somebody that could be musical and 5'1" or less. I will say that.
Mm.
It's definitely a search, but I think I think we got somebody. So
Uh,
I'm pretty pumped. I can't wait. I can't wait to show because it's when this works out. It's gonna work
oh,
out.
beautiful. And speaking of the Grand Ole Opry, I told you like my children's podcast, I write all these stories and I also do the voiceovers for them because like it's just but one of my stories, Skip Boots, Big Safari Adventure, he's a he's a red panda, and him and his family live in the attic of the Grand Ole Opry. And they're just
That's awesome.
they're pretending that they're like prairie dogs, but then like the pound guys finds like his mom and dad, and bring says like, oh, there's like red pandas living here. So I mean, I just always wanted to, I guess, write a story. And he sings and he has country western boots on, the little panda, and he goes on this whole journey to find his parents. And well, they find that they're red pandas, wanted for their fur, and someone takes them to the safari, and he meets all the jungle animals, and he's like wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and naive, and they all want to eat him, but he saves this little elephant from this trap, and then she in return saves him from all the animals, and he ends up getting them all a sanctuary at the end. It's really cute, but yeah.
That's cute. I love it. Yeah, the Grand Ole Opry has such a nice mystique and a piece of Americana to it. It's just so wonderful. I was super fortunate. One of my really close friends, a guy named Coffee Anderson, he just got to do his Grand Ole Opry debut. And so I got to fly. I flew out there with him and watched him step on in the circle for the first time and perform. And he crushed it. He had 3 standing ovations. It was awesome. There's just a cool magic, like electricity at that place. Like it's special.
Oh, wow, that must have been a beautiful experience to see that. Like my family, my mom's family, her dad is the opera house in Milan in Italy. So that's her
Oh wow.
father's family, Milan. So
Yeah.
I think I have it in my genes to be a writer. I didn't really make it in the genes to sing. So on the podcast, I have to tell people like, they're like, "Can you put some sleep songs on there?" And I go, I can't sing. I just cannot sing. So I wrote like more of like a writing song style, and I had to tell them like, "We can't sing, but we encourage everyone to start because you might like it and you want to take lessons. You could be a natural. You might have to be someone that has to just work on it." So I mean, but I just didn't get the gift of singing, but I did get the gift of doing voices and writing stories. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something beautiful about writing. It takes you places. Like when I write, because I was stuck in my home and couldn't go anywhere. I like to go around the world and go on adventures. So when I write, I'm like magic and adventures and actions and everything that I can afford to do. And, or, I wish I could go to this country or that country or see this. I just have fun because if I'm gonna sit down and write, I gotta have this big giant adventure. So most of my children's stories, they take place in countries around the world, which, I'm really happy because I hit number one weekly in, like, oh my gosh, South Korea, Sweden,
That's
Italy,
awesome.
Japan, UK, Australia. And I'm like, I'm only in English, and even number one in Russia. So it's really rewarding when
Wow.
you see that. But yeah, I haven't, so I'm waiting. I'm like, I talk about the journey, like it's so long. Like I'm into 27 years and have not made it yet, Chris. I have not made it. I'm still waiting
I
for
mean, but
that.
it's
I'm still waiting. So, but
but it's funny because it's like what is making it mean? Also, it's like really is like my friends that are actors. It's like I remember when we were younger out there. It was like all my buddies that were on the Saturday morning shows. Like I was like, oh, you made it. And they're like, no, I want to be in a soap. But then all my friends on the soap were like, I want to be on cable. All my cable friends were like, I want to be on primetime. All my primetime friends were like, I want to be in a movie. And all my movie friends were like, I want to win an Oscar. It was like nobody was like happy where they were, or no one thought they made it where they were. And you're like, I'm looking at them like, dude, you made it. Like you're on TV. That's your career, right? You know what I mean? It's like just I don't know, man. Making it's hard, and then it's like, how many times do people have a movie or do something and then that's it? Like I mean, is that making it? Like if you did it once and then it was done, like you got to do it, so that's cool. I mean, I don't know, man. I always just like, yeah, it's funny. I'm always wondering like. Again, I feel fortunate, but I'm always like, I'll tell my wife, like, yeah, when am I going to make it? My other buddies are doing all these things. And I'm like,
yeah, like apples and
it's,
oranges.
it's,
But to get that
yeah,
to
it's
get
just
that
interesting.
to get that, like, have the, to get that success wasn't financial success, and to get that first TV show or that first film out there that's like the professional, like where
Sure.
you go from amateur to professional, like where you do that jump where you're now getting paid and you have that little more security than before because like but it makes those stories for what they are. They come from the heart and they're like, they're soulful, beautiful stories that just come out from the heart. Because I think a lot of comedians, they write from the heart, their experiences, whether it's hardship or they seem to talk about their families a lot, right? Especially like what's the
Yeah. Yeah.
Italian comedian that I love? Like, what's his name? You know that Italian comedian? Oh my god, his name is really hard to say, but he talks about his family and he's Italian and like, oh my god, he's hysterical. And I can't say his name very good, but you know the Italian
Well,
guy.
if you can't say it, I won't be
Oh
able to
my
say
god, but I bet your audience knows, and they're like, oh, they're gonna like. Yeah, oh my god, he's the funniest guy ever. So now you said you're writing a TV show. You're allowed to tell us because it's on a top 5 cable network. Is it Hush Hush or
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna play it safe and just
okay?
say probably not right now, just in case. But it's again, it's been fun. I mean, it's a different experience, and it's like, it's being in a writers' room is super cool, and working with different personalities and different guys. I really enjoy it. I love that office feel. I'm a guy that craves being on sets. Like I love. I mean, like I love to like I go to coffee shops. When I'm working or like where I live, like I end up finding a coffee shop and I'll end up knowing everybody that works there, and I'll know the people that come in. It's like I just need that interaction. Like I just love that. I crave that. So even this in the writers' room, even though it's a virtual writers' room and we're just zooming for 7 hours every day, it's like I love it.
Are you zooming from the coffee shop?
No, I'm definitely my family. My family did a really cool thing. We moved into this new house, obviously, and it's much larger than our house in LA. And there's this upstairs. It's like I don't know if this is supposed to be a media room or something. But anyways, long story short, my family for Christmas, because I go to bed early, I passed out, and usually dads are supposed to be making the bikes and building everything. The next morning, they brought me up here, and they completely redid this and turned it into like my office, like with posters and decorations, and that's what they spent like 3 hours in the middle of the night, Christmas night, doing Christmas Eve doing. It was really cool. So now I have at least an office here where I can do stuff out of.
Oh, yeah, Chris, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. And like, do you want to share real quickly where people can keep up with you? Do you have a website, or just just share that your movie Acid Man is premiering at Tribeca, and do check out his beautiful film Blue Miracle that is on Netflix, starring Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, you wrapped it up pretty nicely. I mean, that all sounds good, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, do you have any social media that you want them to check out or anything like that?
Oh, I'm pretty much a dinosaur who tapped out at Facebook, but you could find me on Facebook, or you can find I have Chris underscore Dowling underscore director on Instagram. But unless I'm shooting something, then I'm more fun with that. Otherwise, I'm pretty lame on Instagram. But go for it if you want to.
Well, thanks so much, Chris, and thank you to our amazing audience. And take a second to download the podcast, give us a nice 5-star review, and if you'd like to support the podcast,